A security guard looks away for 10 seconds to answer a call, and his boss vanishes without a trace. No exits. No footage. No evidence. For 6 years, he's blamed, investigated, and haunted, trying to prove he didn't fail. But the truth he's about to uncover will destroy everything. Because something about that night isn't what it seems. On a quiet autumn night in Salem, Oregon, a security guard named Ethan Cole was doing what he had done hundreds of times before, watching the empty halls of Redwood Financial Headquarters. Nothing unusual ever happened there. Until the phone rang. It was 10:14 p.m. when Ethan's phone buzzed in his pocket. The name on the screen was unfamiliar, but he answered anyway. "Hello," a voice quickly asked. "Is this Ethan? Are you at work right now?"
"Yeah."
"I'm on shift," Ethan replied casually. "Okay," the voice said. The call ended. The entire conversation lasted less than 10 seconds. But when Ethan turned back toward the hallway where his boss, Daniel Harper, had been standing moments earlier, Daniel was gone. No footsteps, no sound, no opened doors, no security alarms. Just gone. Police searched the building. Investigators questioned Ethan. Security footage showed Daniel walking into the corridor. But there was no footage of him leaving. For 6 long years, Ethan carried the guilt of being the last person to see his boss alive. He chased every clue, every rumor, every shadow. But the truth he would discover years later was far more terrifying than a disappearance. Because one day, Ethan would finally find his boss again. Alive. At home. Relaxing. As if nothing had ever happened. And that's when Ethan realized something impossible. The missing person was never Daniel Harper. It was him. The night Daniel Harper vanished started like any other shift for Ethan Cole. It was a cold October evening in Salem, Oregon, and the offices inside Redwood Financial Headquarters were nearly empty. Most employees had gone home hours earlier, leaving only the quiet hum of fluorescent lights and the distant buzz of security monitors. Ethan had been working there for 3 years. Nothing ever happened on the night shift. At 10:13 p.m., Daniel Harper, the company's regional director, walked past the security desk holding a folder of documents. "Working late again, Ethan?" Daniel joked. "Someone's got to keep the ghosts away," Ethan replied with a grin. Daniel laughed and headed toward the back hallway that led to the executive offices. Ethan watched him disappear around the corner. Then his phone buzzed. An unknown number. He answered without thinking. "Hello. Is this Ethan?" the voice asked quickly.
"Yeah."
"Are you at work right now?"
"Yeah."
"I'm on shift." "Okay." The caller hung up. The entire conversation lasted maybe 10 seconds. Ethan slid the phone back into his pocket and looked toward the hallway again. Something felt off. It was too quiet. "Mr. Harper," he called. No answer. Ethan stood up and walked toward the hallway where his boss had gone just moments earlier. The corridor lights flickered slightly. But Daniel Harper was nowhere to be seen. And the door at the end of the hall was still locked. Ethan Cole walked deeper into the quiet hallway, his footsteps echoing against the polished floor of Redwood Financial Headquarters. "Mr. Harper," he called again. Still nothing. Just minutes earlier, Daniel Harper had walked down this exact corridor. There were only 3 doors ahead, the executive office, a storage room, and an emergency exit that required a key card to open. Ethan checked the exit door first. Locked. The red security light blinked steadily, untouched. He frowned. "Daniel," he called again, louder this time. No response. A cold feeling crept into Ethan's chest. He quickly checked the storage room. Empty. Then he walked to the executive office door. It was slightly open, the light inside still on. Papers sat neatly on the desk, but Daniel wasn't there. It was as if he had simply disappeared. By 10:25 p.m., Ethan had already called building management. By 10:40 p.m., the police arrived. Officers from the Salem Police Department searched every floor, every stairwell, and even the parking garage. Nothing. Detectives later reviewed the security cameras. The footage showed Daniel walking down the hallway at 10:13 p.m. But there was no footage of him leaving the building. And the last person who had seen him alive was Ethan, the security guard who had looked away for 10 seconds. By midnight, the quiet office building had turned into an active crime scene. Red and blue lights flashed outside Redwood Financial Headquarters as officers from the Salem Police Department moved through the building again and again, searching for something, anything, that could explain how Daniel Harper vanished. Ethan Cole sat in the security office, staring at the monitors while a detective questioned him. The man introduced himself as Detective Laura Mitchell. "You said you saw Mr. Harper walk down the hallway?" she asked calmly. "Yes," Ethan replied, his voice shaky. "He walked toward the executive offices. Then my phone rang." "How long were you on the call?" "Maybe 10 seconds. Detective Mitchell wrote something in her notebook. And when you looked back, he was gone." The detective studied him carefully. "You're telling me a grown man disappeared from a locked building in 10 seconds?" Ethan swallowed hard. "Yes." Later that night, they reviewed the security footage together. The video clearly showed Daniel Harper walking down the hallway at 10:13 p.m. Then the hallway remained empty. No one left. No one entered. Nothing. Detective Mitchell leaned back in her chair. "That's impossible," she muttered. But Ethan noticed something that made his stomach twist. At 10:14 p.m., the exact moment his phone rang, one of the cameras glitched for 2 seconds. By morning, the news of Daniel Harper's disappearance had spread across Salem, Oregon. A successful executive vanishing inside his own office building was something the city had never seen before. Reporters gathered outside Redwood Financial Headquarters, while police continued searching for answers. Inside the station, Ethan Cole sat across from Detective Laura Mitchell for the second time that night. This time, the questions were sharper. "Let's go over the timeline again," she said, sliding a printed report across the table. Ethan rubbed his tired eyes. "Daniel walked past me at 10:13 p.m. He went down the hallway. Then my phone rang." "The unknown number," Mitchell added. "Yes." "And the call lasted 10 seconds." Ethan nodded. Detective Mitchell leaned forward. "Mr. Cole, you were the last person to see him alive." The words felt heavy in the room. "I didn't do anything," Ethan said quickly. "I didn't say you did," she replied. But her eyes suggested otherwise. Over the next few hours, investigators searched Ethan's phone records, his apartment, and even his car. Nothing suspicious. Still, something about the situation bothered everyone. The missing executive, the 10-second call, the camera glitch, and the security guard who had looked away at the exact moment it happened. Before Ethan left the station, Detective Mitchell gave him one final warning. "Don't leave town," she said, "until we figure out what really happened that night." Weeks passed, but Daniel Harper was still missing. Search teams combed through forests outside Salem, Oregon. Police divers checked nearby rivers and lakes. Detectives questioned co-workers, family members, and anyone who had spoken to him that week. Nothing. No body. No ransom. No evidence of foul play. And no explanation for how a man could vanish inside Redwood Financial Headquarters without triggering a single alarm. For many investigators, the case slowly began to grow cold. But not for Ethan Cole. Even after police stopped calling him in for questioning, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that the answer was somewhere in those 10 seconds. Every night after work, he studied the security footage again. The hallway. The flickering lights. The moment the camera glitched. Over time, Ethan began conducting his own investigation. He tracked the unknown phone number, but it had been disconnected. He revisited the building again and again, measuring distances, checking doors, and recreating the exact timeline. Years passed. Friends told him to move on. Police stopped returning his calls. But Ethan refused to give up. Because one thought haunted him every single day. If Daniel Harper didn't leave that building, then where did he go? And why did the truth seem to be hiding inside those 10 seconds? 6 years passed, but Ethan Cole never truly moved on. The case of Daniel Harper had long been declared cold by the Salem Police Department, yet Ethan still carried a worn notebook filled with timelines, sketches of hallways, and the same unanswered question that had haunted him since that night. What happened during those 10 seconds? By now, Ethan no longer worked at Redwood Financial Headquarters. The company had changed management, and most employees from that time had moved on. But Ethan's life had become something else entirely. An obsession. He spent nights reviewing old evidence, reading about disappearances, and contacting anyone who had ever known Daniel Harper. Most people thought Ethan was chasing ghosts. Until one quiet Saturday afternoon changed everything. Ethan had traveled to Portland, Oregon to follow up on a small lead about a former coworker. The meeting went nowhere, leaving him frustrated as he drove through a quiet suburban neighborhood on his way home. That's when he saw him. A man sitting comfortably on a porch chair. Relaxing. Drinking coffee. Laughing while talking on the phone. Ethan slammed the brakes. His heart started pounding violently in his chest. Because the man sitting there, alive, calm, and completely normal, was Daniel Harper, the boss who had disappeared 6 years ago. The man Ethan had spent half a decade searching for. Ethan Cole sat frozen in his car, staring at the house in Portland, Oregon. His hands trembled against the steering wheel. It couldn't be. But it was. Daniel Harper looked exactly the same. No signs of aging, no stress, no trace of the man who had supposedly vanished 6 years ago. He sat there casually, laughing into his phone like nothing had ever happened. Like those 6 years had never existed. Ethan slowly stepped out of the car. Each step toward the house felt unreal, like he was walking through a dream he couldn't wake up from. As he reached the front gate, Daniel ended his call and looked up. Their eyes met. For a brief moment, confusion crossed Daniel's face. Then he smiled. "Hey, can I help you?" Daniel asked. Ethan's heart dropped. "You don't recognize me," he said, his voice barely steady. Daniel frowned slightly. "Should I?" Ethan took another step closer. "It's me, Ethan. From Redwood Financial Headquarters. The night shift. The night you disappeared." Daniel stared at him for a few seconds. Then he laughed. "Disappeared," he repeated. "What are you talking about?" Ethan felt the world tilt beneath him. Because in that moment, one terrifying truth began to sink in. Daniel Harper wasn't acting confused. He genuinely had no idea what Ethan was talking about. Ethan Cole stood there, trying to steady his breathing as Daniel Harper looked at him like a complete stranger. "This isn't funny," Ethan said, his voice tightening. "You vanished 6 years ago. I've been looking for you." Daniel's smile faded slightly, replaced with concern. "Look, man, I think you've got the wrong person." "No," Ethan snapped. "I worked for you at Redwood Financial Headquarters in Salem, Oregon. You walked down a hallway and never came back." Daniel stared at him for a long moment. Then he shook his head slowly. "I've never even been to Salem," he said. The words hit Ethan like a punch. Before he could respond, the front door opened. A woman stepped outside, followed by 2 young children. "Daniel, is everything okay?" she asked. Daniel turned to her casually. "Yeah, just someone who's confused." The woman smiled politely at Ethan, then gently called the kids back inside. Ethan's chest tightened. Family. A home. A life. Normal. How long have you lived here? Ethan asked, his voice quieter now. Daniel shrugged. About 7 years. 7 years. Ethan's stomach dropped. That meant, even before the night of the disappearance, Daniel had already been here, living this life, as if the man Ethan knew never existed at all. Ethan Cole didn't remember driving back to Salem, Oregon. His mind replayed the encounter over and over again. 7 years. That was what Daniel Harper had said. 7 years in that house. 7 years living a normal life. But that was impossible. Because 6 years ago, Daniel had vanished. Or at least, that's what Ethan believed. By the time Ethan reached his apartment, his hands were shaking. He rushed inside and pulled out his old case files, newspaper clippings, printed emails, copies of police reports. He spread everything across the table. Something felt wrong. Very wrong. The first thing he noticed was the date on a newspaper article. It wasn't from 6 years ago. It was from last year. Ethan frowned and grabbed another document. Same thing. Different dates. Different details. Panic began to rise in his chest as he searched for older records. But they weren't there. It was as if the case had never existed before recently. His breathing grew heavier as a terrifying thought crept into his mind. He rushed to the mirror. His reflection stared back at him, but something felt off. Older. More tired. More worn than he remembered. Then he saw it. A small calendar pinned beside the mirror. The date circled in red. The year was 6 years ahead of what Ethan thought. And in that moment, the truth hit him like a nightmare he couldn't escape. Daniel Harper hadn't disappeared. Ethan Cole did. Ethan Cole stumbled backward, his mind unraveling as the truth settled in. He wasn't the one searching for 6 years. He was the one who had been gone for 6 years. The room around him felt unfamiliar now, like a place he had only just stepped into, not somewhere he had been living. Every object, every note, every piece of evidence suddenly felt staged, recent, wrong. His investigation. It hadn't lasted 6 years. It had barely begun. Ethan's breathing became uneven as memories started to shift. That night. The hallway. The phone call. Are you at work right now? Why had that been the only question? And why did everything go silent right after? Ethan clutched his head as flashes of something darker crept in, darkness swallowing the hallway, a presence behind him, something watching, waiting for him to turn away. 10 seconds. That was all it took. Not for Daniel Harper to disappear, but for Ethan Cole to be taken, replaced, removed from time, or worse, forgotten by it. Somewhere in those missing years, Ethan had existed, but not here. Not in the world he remembered. And whatever had taken him had finally let him come back. Ethan slowly looked at his phone. Unknown number. Incoming call. His heart stopped. It was ringing again. What would you do if you lost 6 years of your life, and didn't even know it? If everyone else moved on, but you were the only one left chasing a mystery that was never real? The story of Ethan Cole isn't just about a disappearance. It's about something far more terrifying. Time distortion. Memory manipulation. Or something we don't even understand yet. Because the scariest part isn't that Ethan went missing. It's that for 6 years, no one noticed. Not the police. Not his friends. Not even the world around him. And when he finally came back, reality itself had already replaced him. So here's the question. Was Ethan taken? Or did he step into something he was never meant to see? And if a simple 10-second distraction was all it took, how many people have already experienced the same thing without ever realizing it? Next time your phone rings, and you look away for just a few seconds, ask yourself, what could disappear while you're not looking?